call this meeting to order. Good afternoon. I'm Jeremy Goldstein and would like to welcome you to the March 21st Design Review Committee meeting. This is a 9-person committee whose primary function is to perform design review for projects located in one of the city's 3 designated review areas: downtown, riverfront, and the new hotel overlay zoning districts. This is a mandatory review, voluntary compliance process with one exception for hotels seeking to skip council review. Hotels taking advantage of this incentive must receive a positive recommendation from this committee. All committee members and staff are participating in person. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. You can also watch the meeting on the city's YouTube channel, either live or recorded. I will now take roll call. Christina Roosh. Here. Kate Ankaya.
Here.
Stephen Lee Johnson is not here. Thomas McLaughlin.
Here.
Michael McDonough.
Here.
Brian Moffitt.
Here.
Robin Raines.
Here.
Ricardo Sejo.
Here.
We have a quorum, so great. First item on our agenda would be approval of the minutes from February 15th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Staff would like to give us a very brief and quick design guideline update.
Good morning, Chair, Commission members. This will be very brief. I just wanted to talk to you. We've been here a couple months back, gave you an update. It's been a little slow start. That's why we wanted to come back to let you know what the status is now. So the process is going to be very similar to discussed last time. We're going to get basically an inventory and analysis phase of the downtown design review guidelines. But there's a little change up in staff management. I really am here to introduce Ellie Gross, who's a planner with our department. She's going to be project managing really the first phase of that inventory and analysis to really get the working group together and start that inventory and analysis to build. I'll let her talk a little, introduce herself, but just really want to let you know we are going to start moving forward. That's why we're here. We didn't forget about you. It will be a process. One other minor thing, because I know, Jeremy, you've been and talked a little bit about the riverfront guidelines. We're prioritizing the downtown guidelines right now because we get more development pressures. We feel that there's some more improvements that are needed there. Not that the riverfront guidelines don't need improvements. That will be that's what we'll focus on first is the downtown guidelines, and then we're going to shift our focus to that. That does not mean that that your working group cannot, can start looking at the guidelines and marking those up. It's just that staff's resources are going to start focusing on the downtown guidelines first, and then we'll shift to the.
So it'll be a race, see who gets more done, right?
It's a challenge. Ellie Gross.
Yeah, we'll try to get started so we can get that race going. I'm Ellie Gross. I'm a long-range planner with the city. My background is in sustainability and affordable housing. And yes, I'll be trying to do some coordination around getting the working group together and kind of getting the inventory analysis and research going. You might recognize me from writing some meeting minutes. Now you'll get to know me in a different way. That'll hopefully be a bit more fun. But yeah, I'll be sending out an email in the coming weeks to try to get that rolling and kind of gauge interest for who wants to be part of the working group.
Great, thanks, welcome. All right, we're on to new business. New business. We have a formal design review for 46 Wall Street, which is a level 1 review.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. My name is Grania Miser. I am a planner with Planning and Urban Design, and I'm going to give you a presentation today on a proposal at 46 Wall Street. Thank you. So for some context, the property is a double-fronted lot that has frontage on Patton Avenue and Wall Street. It's a two-story building that was built in 1936 and is just shy of 11,000 square feet. It is located, as you can see, in the traditional downtown core, just there, a little bit east of Otis Avenue, and it has been vacant for a little while now, a couple of years. So, as far as some jurisdictional context for you, do I need to, can you do that, or are you, it's just this one? Okay, sorry. Jurisdictional context, it's coming to you as a formal review. It is in CBD, traditional downtown core, the key pedestrian street, Wall Street is a key pedestrian street, and it's triggering a level 1 review for Chapter 7 of our UDO compliance because of the vacancy and the higher impact. So I will be conducting the level 1 staff review for the Planning and Urban Design Department also, and coordinating with our other staff members from transportation, fire safety, building safety. We at this time don't have that application, so I can't tell you much more about it than that. A little bit of history for you. I just pulled up a few photographs. As you can see on the left-hand side, it's the Wall Street facade, has not changed in 15 years. The front along Patton Avenue is very similar there. That's not really subject to this particular scope of work, but I just put it in there to show you that nothing's much changed on that side of the building either. So for the purposes of this review, 99% of the work that's taking place is actually interior work. There are some interior modifications to the building on the second floor. That floor is accessed from Wall Street, from the pedestrian area of Wall Street, right into that second floor from the Patton Avenue. The first floor is not part of the scope of work for this project and is not receiving any renovation at this time. So all interior work with the exception of some very minor changes. There's no expansion of the footprint here. There's no modifications to the rooftop, no additional mechanical on the rooftop. So the external modifications that are happening to the facade on Wall Street are just one egress window and one egress door that are being added to that facade. I'm assuming that those requirements are to do with the increase in occupancy of the building. So the next slide, the top right-hand corner is showing you that facade. The existing window to the far left of those double doors is being replaced by a new egress door. That door will be matching the existing recessed double doors. So from a design perspective, keeping the scale and materials similar to what's there and what's existing. And then on the right-hand side of the double doors, an additional egress window is being put on that side of the facade. So nothing on the west elevation and nothing on the front of Patton Avenue, as I mentioned earlier. So one of the concerns I had and we had when we're looking at this was just because it's a key pedestrian street, the fenestration guidelines. Right now the building is non-conforming in that regard. It has a fenestration of about 40%. This project does actually increase the fenestration by 11%. So we're not there, but we are not making a non-conformity any worse and actually improving it. That just speaks to the fenestration being increased. So as far as your guidelines and recommendations, I just summarized there that really 1A through 1D, the project is in compliance with those guidelines in that there's been thought put into the scale of the existing facade and the materials that are being used in the new additional door and window are similar to what's there right now. So they're all in keeping with your guidelines there for the rehabilitation. I think just to conclude, we support this project and recommend approval. The project largely aligns with your requirements and guidelines, and where it doesn't is that one point, the fenestration. Although it's not been met, it has been approved, and it is an existing non-conforming situation. I'm happy to take questions if you have the project architect, Mr. Howell's also here, who might be better able to answer anything technical.
So it's because we're moving from a lower impact to higher impact that's triggering the site
Correct.
compliance?
Yes.
And
Yes.
are they providing street trees, or are they doing?
I haven't got the level 1 yet, but I will be, that will be one of the requirements, would be some street trees along that Wall Street, yes. And as far as the level 1 is concerned, although this project is just looking at a tenant upfit on the second floor, the level 1 will be looking at the property in its entirety.
And that's only because it's going from a lower to a higher
Correct,
impact?
and we also have a vacancy issue, so both of those
Oh,
triggers.
2 years.
Yeah, both of those triggers would trigger the level 1. So I'm sure we'll have the level 1 shortly, and I'll be doing that review when it comes in.
What does our UDO tell us when we're moving from non-conforming to slightly less non-conforming? There's really nothing in the UDO that I've found that like gives you any kind of guidelines. So in the architectural world, we have kind of the 20% rule for ADA in an existing building or something like that, you know, where you don't have to spend, I can't remember now the actual name of that. What is the name of the 20% rule? Y'all remember? That's what we used to call it back in the day, where, you know, if you're upfitting a building, you don't have to spend more than 20% of your, the budget of the building on bringing it into full compliance
Right.
with accessibility. I don't know what kind of guidelines there are when we're going from lower impact to higher impact to bringing it in compliance with the UDO. I'm generally in support. I understand, you know, I just didn't know if there was like sometimes there's not necessarily a written rule, but maybe
Right.
there's a general policy. I'm just curious, like how
Sure,
staff
of course.
evaluates
So,
such things.
so in general, and it doesn't quite speak to what you're asking, Mr. Moffat, because this is a fenestration issue, but in general with non-conformities, how we have always interpreted the code and our policy for the code is we're not making that non-conformity any worse.
Okay.
So for instance, if a building was encroaching into a setback and somebody wanted to put an addition on there,
Right.
we wouldn't be able to do that. They could put an addition on the other side of the house
Sure.
where they could meet the standards. So typically what we look at is not making that non-conformity any worse.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sure.
Any other questions?
I have a question about the awning that's being removed. For the signage that's going there, will that
Sure.
be internally illuminated, or like will there be like a spot?
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
well,
Will the signage be like internally illuminated, or will it just be like a spot?
I haven't seen a sign application at this time. I will tell you that the level 1 review will not look at either exterior lighting or signage. They will both be permitted separately and reviewed by our department. And if it's external lighting, we have a requirement that it's gooseneck lighting, so it's down. And it will just have to comply with the sign ordinance for the central business district. Those items, I don't know what the intent is. I do know that the awning is coming down, but when the sign application comes in, it will be reviewed per our sign code by staff in our office, and we'll need to comply with that, and building safety will also review it.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing any other illuminated signage on the streets.
Right.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicant, or we're pretty good?
For the applicant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So does the applicant want to come on up, or if there's questions for the applicant? Please, yes, state your name and
Chip Howell, Native Forms Architecture architect for the project.
So you're adding an egress door because you're no longer exiting through the lower level?
That's correct. Yeah. The space is currently, or was, a single tenant space for Jubilee, who was there for many years, and has been leased to my client for the upper level, and they're pursuing a separate tenant for the lower level, so we needed to accommodate egress.
So the facade drawing shows that you're demoing the new door. You're carving into the building, but you're also demoing above it as well. according to the drawing? Maybe somebody could pull that up.
I believe, yeah, we're creating a new alcove, so basically we're striking a datum across that front elevation to keep it in alignment with the other openings that are in the space and not to create a sort of low head height as you come into that alcove. It'll be primarily used for egress out of that space, and then it steps back approximately to the plane of the existing storefront window that's the primary entrance of the building.
Can we pull up the drawings?
Just the back of- Which one? Were you referring to these ones?
Yeah, A01. Well, those are different than what we're looking at.
Oops.
Okay. It's the same.
You may need to go to the DRC website, go to the meeting folder to get to them, sorry. Forgot to include them.
So there's also in the new doorway you're carving, you're kind of a couple feet away from this side of the building. You're kind of blocking off that space. Again, we have to look at the plan. But the plan shows you're basically carving out an exterior vestibule for the door. But then on one side, you're kind of blocking off a portion of it.
Was it A02 or 3?
A01? Well, you
Yeah,
can-
right there.
No, good, that's, well,
That
that's a
elevation.
demolition plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there, bottom right, yeah, so the hatched area goes all the way up to the parapet. I'm just wondering what you're demoing of the upper section that,
That's for the reality of replacing the finish in that space, taking the stucco out to the control joint so that we can remove it to the coping and match the adjacent finish.
okay, so that's, you're not changing it, you're.
Oh, no, we're not taking a slice out of the building all the way to the roof. No.
Okay,
It's the diagonal hatch is finished demolition, the cross hatch is structural building demolition.
oh, I see, okay. And then if you were to be able to find the plan, I'm just curious, I'm guessing, you go now. Yeah, if you can zoom in on that vestibule, it looks like you're kind of like blocking off behind the door where the door swings open. You're kind of burying a little space there.
Yes, there'll be a cavity there so that we don't remove it all the way to the exterior brick wall. We'll need to have a finish system in there, so that's what that's doing.
So you're just creating a dead cavity space there?
Yes, just in the dead space behind the door.
Is there you heard the discussion about it being below the fenestration threshold. Is there a desire from your client to create more transparency to the street?
There may be a desire from the client, but there's definitely not a desire from the structural engineer from a lateral perspective. No. Not being a smartass, that's just the way, that's just the feedback we've gotten from the engineer. He said take as little out as you can just because of the existing load-bearing masonry condition.
And the awning goes away, signage comes in, does the awning come back? Is the signage part of the awning?
No, the awning will be gone and will be replaced by building signage.
Well, in my opinion, the awning was the only
Flare out there.
flavor.
Well, we have Alex Duvall here, who's part of the ownership team, who's an amazing, I'm not going to say the wrong word, but not graphic, not light, but explain your trade a little bit.
If you want to speak.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Just because we've got remote people, so state your name and who you are, and that way they can hear as well.
Hi all, Alex Duvall, nice to meet you all. Yeah. I'm a motion graphics designer, computer animator. I went to design school for my bachelor's. And yeah, I would like to answer anything.
Design intent for the signage.
Design intent for the signage. Yeah, we were thinking of keeping the awning and, doing just a design on top of it of our logo. But then, we are a sculpture art gallery, so we wanted to create something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to fit the wall. Nothing too gaudy, definitely something that's mildly lit with LED strips, but beautiful signage created by one of our fabricator, also an owner.
Part of our review is not only just to look at, speaking for the rest of you, is to maybe plant some seeds to kind of up your game a little bit.
Sure.
And it's a pretty bland building, as you probably know. It kind of got that 80s kind of look to it. If there's, the only thing I can think of to spice it up is once you carve into the alcove, obviously you don't want to dig into the ethos, but once you carve in and you're out of the weather, maybe you can dress the sides of the vestibule, especially the new one, instead of just wrapping the stucco in. Put a bold color, put some wood, something to kind of create a little bit of spice in the entrance.
I agree completely, and we would like to have the opportunity to paint some murals as well as create an evening projection mapping show on the facade.
What are you planning on doing on the ground surface of the alcove? You've just got a,
So the ground surface of the alcove will match the ground surface of the existing alcove. That's over Rat Alley, however you want to refer to it. That is the elevated slab that's above that easement alley
Right.
underneath. So it'll remain the same as the existing condition in the alcove. We're just going to uncover it.
okay,
So it'll be concrete.
okay.
I'm a big fan of that street, and it kind of peters out as you're coming from the Flatiron down, and I'm not in favor of anything flashy, but you may want to call some attention to the folks that may be turning around there a little bit.
We definitely appreciate the suggestion and would like to explore that too. We're getting this in front of you all now as we're barreling down through construction documents just to make sure we can get our structure and all our fenestration coordinated for that effort, but certainly appreciate the design suggestions on that end. I don't think there'll be a shortage of creativity or creative possibilities with this team, so.
Great. Any additional questions for the applicant? Great, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Okay, we opened and closed public comment at 12:52.
I move to recommend approval of the exterior renovation at 46 Wall Street as presented based on the site plans, elevations, and materials submitted, and the discussions heard during this review. I find that the project meets the intent of the downtown design guidelines as the applicant is taking a existing nonconformity and improving that nonconformity while not in full compliance to better compliance than it is currently.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Next item on our agenda under other business would be a formal review of a UDO text amendment regarding the DRC term concurrency with DTC and ABRC terms.
Yes, good afternoon.
Will knows
everybody.
how I feel about this.
That's
but okay.
right. We've had some prior discussion that we can get into today. Will Palmquist, Planning and Urban Design. I'll be presenting this text amendment that is proposed to modify the Design Review Committee's term specifications. First, I'm going to show you what the current UDO specifies regarding membership in the Design Review Committee. So under number 3 here, basically states that 3 members of the DRC shall be appointed from the Downtown Commission, 3 from the Asheville-Buncombe Riverfront Commission, and 3 members appointed at large. There's also a caveat that if members from the Downtown or Riverfront Commission are not volunteering to fill those 3 spots, we can open those up to an at-large member, which we've done recently with, I believe, Riverfront Commission. So we actually have 4 members that are at large on the committee now and 2 from the Riverfront Commission.
So it says members selected from those commissions, not members must be actively serving on those commissions.
So that's what it currently says, correct? So this is an amendment to that section of the UDO proposed by the clerk's office that would clean up in their minds some of this inconsistency that we currently have between folks who serve on the Design Review Committee and also on the Downtown and Riverfront Commissions. So we've kind of ran into this with Ricardo's or Stephen Lee's spot and Ricardo kind of taking Stephen Lee's spot on the Downtown. So So Stephen Lee's term on the Downtown Commission expired, but he was still serving time, so to speak, on the Design Review Committee.
No, you were right.
It feels like it, right? No.
No, you got it right, you got it right.
So yeah, he still had some time to serve on the DRC. And it kind of put us in a weird spot, trying to figure out, well, is he still eligible to serve on the Design Review Committee? He's no longer on the Downtown Commission. Now we'd have another at-large member. It's a little bit strange. We're able to kind of finagle it this time around since Ricardo was an at-large member on the Design Review Committee, but he was also on the Downtown Commission. So we're able to kind of move Stephen Lee into the at-large spot and then move Ricardo into the Downtown Commission spot, which is a little bit awkward, and I think in our minds, not really the intent that if you have folks cycling off downtown and riverfront, then they're no longer on those commissions, but they'd still be on the Design Review Committee. So we can talk a little bit more about whether that's a good idea or not. This is kind of the proposed language in the red, is that,
Make it bigger.
I'm sorry, not the red. Yes, I can. So the red is the placeholder for these reviews. So we're asking you all to review it today, give a vote. It'll also go to Planning and Zoning Commission, and then finally City Council for final approval. So the proposed change would be in section 2 now, would say that Downtown Commission reps and Riverfront Commission reps on the Design Review Committee shall serve a term concurrent with their terms on those committees. So essentially, we wouldn't really have separate terms for the Design Review Committee membership. It would just refer back to the memberships as predicated in their Downtown and Riverfront Commission terms. So that way, when those terms are up, they'll be concurrent with each other. So that's the proposal. I know Jeremy's got some thoughts. I'll have to talk through it more.
So I understand the intent of what you're trying to do. I personally feel like you're interpreting it incorrectly. The purpose is to get some representation from those different committees, but my concern was, okay, well, what if you pick someone who's only got 1 year left on the River Commission? It means they're going to serve for 1 year, and then you got to get rid of them. And the whole purpose of serving that 3-year term here is, your first year, you're getting your feet underneath you. Second year, you start to build up some knowledge and some comfort and some relationships with the process and the people. It doesn't, in my view, require them to be actively serving on either of those commissions. I feel like your feeder for the committee should be Downtown Commission, River Commission, and at large. You serve your 3-year term and maybe another 3-year term, whether or not you remain on there because your terms are, however many years are left, or people resign for different reasons from one but can serve on the other. I just feel like that's the wrong change. If you want to clarify, it doesn't say actively serving all this. If you feel like it needs clarification, I suppose, but I feel like you'll create more problems, more inconsistency within this committee, and that doesn't serve the public.
So is this the staff's understanding? I'm trying to make sure I understand what the point is. The staff doesn't want to get to the point where you could potentially, let's just pretend that we all get fed up at DTC and just leave. Under the current state, we could keep serving here, and Downtown Commission would have no representation on this board.
Right, that's a scenario that's possible. Or your terms expire from Downtown Commission.
Unlikely, but possible.
Right, it is, yep. So I think staff's opinion was that the intent is to have those, members represented.
But to Jeremy's point is that, and remind me again, I should know this, the Downtown Commission, Riverfront Commission makes a recommendation to council to who we would like to have serve on the DRC.
I don't think they make recommendations when the nominations.
They did the first go-around
Okay.
because council had to approve.
Probably for the first one, because there was no DRC. Now it's the DRC chair and staff liaison who give recommendations.
You have to get people to agree to do it.
Right, so we asked the Downtown Commission, and then once we know who's applying, then the chair and staff will weigh in. The Design Review Committee chair provides recommendation
to
council.
To council.
Yep.
Okay, so like DTC says, here's our four.
Yep.
You then.
Me and Jeremy will chat and gossip and, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
okay.
figure out the best
And then-
person.
And then council decides.
Yeah.
Right,
To
but
vote on
council
it.
has to act within the accordance of the ordinance, so.
Right.
If there's only, originally, there were a minimum of 3 from the Riverfront Commission required, only 2 of us were willing to do it,
Right,
we're gonna get approved, you can't not approve us because,
Yeah, that's right.
you know.
right.
But I guess Will's concern is, if my term, or Kate's term, or someone's term on the River Commission expires, I just don't think the logic works. I mean, if you're allowed to serve 1 3-year term and then another 3-year term, I mean, you're,
This would mean that the only people that could be nominated from DTC and Riverfront would be people just starting their first.
right.
I wouldn't limit it to that, but that maybe is a consideration.
It's not practical, because people come and go all the time. At least my, experience with all these commissions, coming and going early, and, someone moves, or someone,
And this is way more fun than DTC. If I was going to drop one, it would be DTC.
Yeah. So but I think the intent was to get that type of representation and experience on the design review committee. So you have your training or exposure to the downtown commission and riverfront commission before you're able to be placed on here. And then you continue serving, and then you go off, and then they pick again from those places to refill.
So it seems like we have 2 competing.
Yeah. No worries, okay, no worries. We'll just talk louder.
Yeah, we're good. So we got 2 competing, then the intent, I remember, we hashed this out for a while when we set up the DRC, is that we wanted representation from DTC and Riverfront on this.
Right.
And then, but that is somewhat, now it seems like it's competing in actuality with continuity and experience on this. Am I setting that up correctly, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean,
They don't
so
have to be at odds.
DTC and Riverfront Commission each had their own design review committees, and so there was
We did.
if we're going to agree to dissolve those or not fight this, we want to make sure we still have representation.
Right.
As long as this is fed by those, whether or not you're still actively serving on them, I feel like meets the intent.
Is
We want
there-
to feed from those bodies.
Honestly, I would probably, if we were going to start making changes to this, I think you should probably also have representation on this from HRC. That's a different topic, but that's similar. Okay.
I mean, that's where I'm coming from. I feel like we would lose more potentially just when I see
This
people
didn't rank
coming
my
and
eyebrows
going.
the first time I saw it, so I'm getting my head around it.
Carter,
The
do
only reason why
something.
we talked about it is I have to leave at 1:30, and he said, well, what do you think of my thing? And I said, okay. Sorry.
Remind me again, how many seats are from each of the commissions?
3 from downtown, 3 from Riverfront, and then 3 at large.
And 3 at large.
Yep.
So would an alternative be where we say, okay, one of those seats has to be active in whatever commission they belong to? You know what I mean? So there's always at least one representative from each of those that is active in both, but you don't necessarily make all 3 be active.
How would you determine who gets kicked off if there's no active?
Well, and then we're talking about making it harder for staff. But the other issue is we can't even get 3 people from the River Commission on this thing. There's only 2 of us that are willing to do it. Part of that was a protest about dissolving the old one. People were, I'm like, well,
What if we leave it to the discretion of the feeding bodies that if someone cycles off the downtown commission and are on here, it's up to the downtown commission whether they want to.
See, that's exactly where I was about to go. So, I mean, in the situation we were with Stephen Lee, I would have said Stephen Lee's a great representative of DTC. I would support him continuing being the DTC's representation through the end of the DRC term. If we did anything, it would be that the Downtown Commission and the Riverfront Commission should be the bodies that make the decision as to whether that person can continue serving their term. Now, so if someone, for example, leaves the DTC, serves on here,
Yep.
and leaves the DTC in a huff, guess what? Maybe we don't want you serving. Maybe the Downtown Commission gets to decide.
but then you're not making it self-contained committee? I mean, what's the purpose of having a 3-year term with another 3-year option to extend at the council's pleasure, because council renews you?
Oh,
You're
you're
tying
back
into
on
2
council.
separate committees and politicizing it.
Well,
I feel like
but
it
then-
should just be,
Now-
you're good enough to make it, you have the training of and exposure of the 2 different commissions, and then you serve it out.
You
Unless,
still serve at council's pleasure, though. So
Yeah.
downtown commission could tell council, we don't recommend that person
that's
continue
true,
serving that
but leave
term.
it, I'm thinking about the functionality of it. If-
Part of it's bringing the communication back and forth, so you lose that. If the downtown commission member cycles off and is on this, that person's not sharing what's happening here.
That's what, yeah, and that's what I was getting at with the, making sure that you have one that's active, because then that person will go back and report.
Yeah, and that would mitigate some of that concern. I don't know how practical it is.
I don't know how
And
you,
it's a
I
little
don't
bit-
know how you write that and enforce it. That's tough.
Yeah, I know the clerk's office has been trying to rationalize a lot of the terms of the boards and commissions, and it's a lot of work for them, I know, because we have a lot of boards and commissions in the city and a lot of conflicting terms, and I know we've had moved to the quarterly appointments with council, so this is a step in trying to simplify, rationalize some of this stuff.
Who's the staff person over at the downtown commission?
Dana right now.
So, I mean, I'm happy to take feedback if you all provide recommendations or approve with conditions that I'm glad to talk to the clerk's office about as this moves along. We feel the change to be relatively simple and get closer to the intent. Obviously, in a perfect world, we have 3 from downtown, 3 from Riverfront, 3 at large, and when someone's terms ends in 1, we don't want, 9 at-large members one day with no connection to downtown or Riverfront. And I get the idea of having maybe downtown and Riverfront have some say about whether this person's okay to represent us
But we
still.
already kind of do. I
Yeah.
mean, we are the ones that get to choose the one, more or less, we choose the ones that then get sent to council.
Mhm.
Well, I say we choose, we say not it until there's a certain number left, and then, anyway.
I think it's making it more complicated. I feel like,
I don't know that I would change it at
If-
this
if the-
point in time.
if
I
the-
mean,
yeah.
we've had one hiccup, and I don't think it was a huge issue. I understand you're trying to make things easier on the clerk and on staff to keep up with who's in terms of what. This seems like this is working.
yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, if Ricardo hadn't been on the downtown commission and an at-large member in the DRC, then we would have, 5 at-large members?
Right.
Otherwise,
But that's okay. And then when they go off, you
guess that's the
refill from
question
the 2
is,
commissions,
you
at
know,
least the way I read it.
Yeah.
Unless you, again, I look at it like if someone only has 1 year left on one of these commissions, you're gonna kick them off after a year when they barely gotten to get into it? It doesn't, that would not be a good result for this committee, for either commission's perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
If the issue is about communicating, we could probably create a mechanism for communicating if there is no one actively on, like a former member is off the commission. There's got to be a
Which
mechanism.
we know.
Right, but there's probably an easier way to communicate with either commission if someone's actively not on it. We can
Well, and
come up with
ultimately,
that.
council, we all serve at council's pleasure
Yeah.
on all these commissions, and at any point in time, council can ask anybody. That's it, right?
You
Well-
said it's up to the vice chair, the chair to decide, right?
yeah,
So
the,
doesn't that, wouldn't that be the fail-proof? Like, you have to consider those things when you're deciding.
right, if someone had
to
like
choose on
a
member.
day left on the commission, maybe then we wouldn't recommend it, that they get appointed to
But maybe
DRC.
they make an awesome contributor. We want their experience. Maybe they've just finished 5 years and 9 months on the downtown commission. We're like, we want that experience on the design review committee. Yeah, fill this up and serve your 3 years and maybe another 3 years because you're a valuable member and you've gotten all this experience. I don't
But then is
As
that
long as
being,
the code says choose from that commission, it doesn't say they have to be actively serving on it.
Can you pull up what it says currently again, please?
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the more critical point is to make sure that that we have good representation from, from the areas that we think we need, and one of the problems with Stephen Lee moving off was that we have already limited representation on the site and landscape side. And we were going to lose half of that bid, you know?
I would have hated for him to
And
have to
how long had
cycle
he
off.
been on our committee at that
Since the
point?
beginning,
Yeah.
since DRC started.
But how many, like,
So a few years
never
now.
been 3 years, but the way it says is you can serve another 3. You're already on the committee. Just because you're cycling off, like, to
Right.
make your point, it would be a shame to have lost him.
Right, so in that scenario, if it was under the new rules, he was appointed today, but he only had a few years left in downtown, his term would have expired, and then he would not be eligible to re-up at design review, because he would no longer be on downtown.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that would be a big loss.
When you put names to it, that's tough.
Well, assuming everyone is rational, if the downtown commission ends up feeling like they're not fully represented, they can reach out to the 2 or 3 members that they appointed to this that are no longer serving and say, hey, we got a whole crop of new people and we appreciate your service. Can you vacate your seat so we can put somebody else in? If someone asked me that, I'd say, great. You know, yeah, go for it. So.
Yeah, I mean, in the perfect world, that would be something that could happen. It's a little bit awkward to kind of guarantee, you have a lot of feedback loops and trying to have folks then cycle off and downtown riverfront getting involved with the membership after the fact. I think we'd rather have it as it remains now or as proposed and not a lot of.
I think it's more important to have continuity on this standalone committee
Mm-hmm.
than to try to true it up and kick people on and
And
on.
people that show up, you know, they're
It's-
dedicated to being here.
You know, you learn how to communicate with one another, and then it improves the process.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think your point's well taken. And this is just trying to guard against that, you have folks cycling off, and we could have a lot of at-large folks who then have no real connection anymore to the downtown commission or riverfront commission. I think it's hard to work in those kind of informal feedback loops and codify that, so it's.
So if this is a formal review, what is our process? Besides this, is this open for public comment? How does this work right now?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Do we want to have an up or down vote on this? Do we want to withdraw? What do we want to do?
Let's, I'd love for you all to make a vote on it one way or the other. It's kind of a formal and informal review because the design review committee does not typically review zoning text amendments.
That's P&Z.
Purview of P&Z and then city council for final approval. So those are the next review bodies. So I think this is kind of more of a recommendation to planning and zoning commission and they'll make a recommendation to council.
Do we need to open for public comment then?
Let's do that just to be safe.
Can I?
Please do.
Thank you. I'm going to open for public comment at 1:12. Is there anybody from the public that would like to contribute to this discussion? I'm going to close public comment at 1:12 because there's no one that would like to contribute. I mean, I would have a motion to, I don't know how to
You
phrase
can
it.
recommend denial or recommend
Recommend to
approval.
deny the change at this time, but if someone wants to make whatever one they want.
I would move that the Design Review Commission not adopt the proposed change to the UDO as stated.
I would second that motion. I generally don't like to do that, but I'm going to. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Cool.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you for discussing.
Thank you.
We'll coordinate with the clerk's office about that feedback and decide on whether it's pertinent to bring it to the.
P&Z may love it, council may love it, but at least they know how we feel about it.
That's why we asked you, because it really affects you, so I appreciate all the feedback. So I think we have one last maybe public comment that we might consider entertaining.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. Mr. Court, right? Please come on up, state your name into the microphone and.
My name's John Court. The subject matter I have today is the subdivision of the Civic Center parcel in order to construct a Duke Energy substation. This is my thesis. And the reason for my appearing today was 3 weeks ago, I thought that this would be on the agenda, but it's not.
So
The
here's what-
project, the project is the new Vanderbilt substation. When I talked to John a couple months ago, it was supposed to be on this month's meeting, but it's been kind of delayed, so it'll be before you at some point. And John wanted to speak on some concerns regarding that proposal and some impacts it might have.
Yes, I'm speaking as an individual, and my architectural firm of Baber, Court, and Wood in the 1970s was the architect of record for that building. I programmed it, I designed it, and I did the construction administration for the building. And I'm still alive.
Congratulations.
I walk a mile every day.
Believe me, several of us know what you mean. We know how you feel.
Okay, the subdivision is a change. It's a substantial change to the building code compliance parameters for the Civic Center. The original plans and specifications were approved by the North Carolina Department of Insurance in Raleigh. It's a large assembly building. Any substantial change should be reviewed and approved in writing by all authorities having jurisdiction. These substantial changes resulting from the subdivision would include a 200-foot reduction of building frontage on a public way. The definition of a public way in the building code is dedicated fire department access. That's talking about Rankin Street. You got it on Hiawassee, you got it on Haywood. But you're eliminating the public way and fire department access from Rankin. Placement of a potentially hazardous use in close proximity to open air means of egress balcony and a non-fire rated exit concourse glass wall. So the way you get out of the building is on the concourse. It's glass enclosed, no fire rating. And you also get out of the building at the lower level on an open air balcony, which has no fire protection from an adjacent use. Substantial increase of fire department hose length to exterior building surfaces. Not included in the building code under which this was approved is hose length. In 2018, the building code was changed to require a 200-foot minimum hose length from the fire department pumper.
Maximum.
Pardon me?
Maximum.
Maximum,
Yeah.
200 feet. From the pumper to any surface on the building. You got to kill a cockroach at the end of the hose. That's the code now. We also designed the Buncombe County Detention Center addition behind this building. We've got fire department connections on the roof of that building. So today you'd have to have fire department connections on the roof. The other thing is in close proximity, you are changing the means of egress from the exhibition level exits to a public way. Half of the exit capacity coming to the east comes out the east end of the building, and you are making them pass a potentially hazardous use. A substantial change is to be implemented. A qualified design professional should evaluate the current code compliance of the entire Civic Center building and provide findings to the authorities having jurisdiction. You can sum the whole thing up in one sentence. If what you're changing lessens the compliance of an existing building with the current building code, the official should not approve it. So Thank you.
We appreciate your comments, thank you.
Just,
I have some questions. So, is there a way to reconfigure the Duke? Actually, it's on the previous, I just pulled it up on the previous meeting agenda. Will, you can probably pull it up the site plan real quick. I was kind of curious, is there a way to satisfy, sounds like life safety issues and build a substation the way it is? Or are you saying that?
that's a complex question. And it requires interpretation by the authorities having jurisdiction. A building,
You could put it across the street.
well, you'll notice I say compliance with parameters. The building code is full of parameters. In looking at it out, just offhand, it was a pretty good solution on the other side of the street, but it cut down trees. So why don't you make a pocket park on the east side of the Civic Center with trees in it and do one for one, and maybe you would have done that. That's,
I'm looking at the site plan, there is a drive between the proposed substation and the back of the building. And we didn't ask, or it wasn't explained, was that part of the egress or was it part of the access to the substation?
so if you work your way through the building code, is it 21 feet wide? Is it dedicated to the fire department?
That's right.
If you got a glass wall, do you have 30 feet to the center line of the public way? And then does the use have its setback from the center line of the public way?
Or do you do water wash glass? What Mr. Court is saying is that the burden is on the people making the proposed changes.
Correct.
And that it's not an easily answered question, and that you need a qualified design professional to look at it.
It takes interpretations.
No, I was just trying to clarify if you saw some serious flaws or you just have concerns that need to be addressed and that it probably is going to be okay.
He has serious concerns that need to be addressed.
Serious. You're talking about 10,000, an occupant load of 10,000 people in that building.
Right.
Okay, and you're also talking about entering the building, and the exit is 50 feet below the entrance, and you got 7,000 people to get out. You're talking about remoteness of exits. It is a tough nut to crack. Not easily answered. Also, a thought that came to mind is it's actually in a pretty good place. What if you expand it to the south? There's a hole there between the parking deck and the substation. I'm not commenting. I'm not giving advice. I'm just telling you, if you make building, if you lessen your building code compliance with the current building code, you should not do it. And whatever you do is going to do that.
Have you shared that with Chris, who's the center?
This is my first, I wanted to get my comments on public record. And you guys can figure out what to do with it. Thank you for
Thank you.
this opportunity to express my concern.
So, Will, if you can share this submission with the other powers that be as well, to make sure it gets around.
Yeah, I
that'd be
think the
great.
city review team, when they review that future project, folks like building safety, the fire department, we can make sure that because the point is that we have to look broader than just the actual project. We have to look at the effect on existing building as
Right.
well.
I
So-
can't build a new building next to an old building to make the old building less safe.
Right, right.
I'm ready to go walk my mile now.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion, or is there a motion to
I'd
adjourn?
like to move we adjourn, let you get to your next meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.